when my daughter-in-law laughed and said, "You're just a guest here, Odessa, not the owner." I didn't argue. I simply placed a sealed folder labeled Trust Agreement on the table and watched her face drain of color. That moment changed everything. But it was only the beginning. The porch light glowed warm against the early February dusk, and I balanced a casserole dish in my hands as I walked up the driveway. The magnolia tree whispered above me, its leaves trembling like they knew what kind of evening this would be. Leora opened the door before I could knock. "Evening, Miss Odessa," she said, her smile polite, rehearsed. I stepped inside, catching the smell of lemon cleaner and something roasting in the oven. "Evening, baby," I replied, setting my dish down carefully on the granite counter, so polished it almost glared back at my thrift store cardigan. The kitchen was spotless, every utensil lined up like soldiers. I could feel the quiet difference between her world and mine. Silas, my son, stood at the table arranging napkins like a man who'd rather be anywhere else. Leora tossed salad leaves into a bowl with the precision of a surgeon. "You getting by okay on that check, Miss Odessa?" she asked casually, like she was talking about the weather. "I'm getting by just fine. Sugar," I said, smiling though the sting settled deep. The air hummed with the clink of silverware and the hum of the HVAC. I noticed a chair slightly pushed back from the table. A seat for someone half invited. My mug, the one with roses, sat apart from the rest. We sat. The conversation started with weather and ended with numbers. "Mortgage rates are up again," Leora said, "and groceries. Lord, they're killing us." I offered to rinse the dishes after dinner, but she waved me off. "We've got it handled. Adult money, you know?" she said with that bright, cutting tone. I nodded, eyes on my plate. Silas's silence filled the room heavier than any sermon I'd ever heard. Eden, my sweet granddaughter, tried to talk about her debate team, but Leora cut her short. "We'll talk college when there's a plan." The air stiffened. From the corner of my eye, I saw a folded envelope, property tax notice, on the counter. Leora flipped it face down when I glanced at it. In the South, folks don't yell first, they just smile tighter. Then Leora straightened up, her voice smooth as syrup. "Odessa, we've talked it through. You'll need to contribute $800 a month or consider other arrangements." She laughed softly like it was a joke shared among grown-ups. "This isn't a charity. We can't carry a situation forever." I looked at Silas. He stared at his fork. "Did I miss a conversation with my son?" I asked. No answer. "You're on a fixed income," she added, twisting the knife with a smile. I rested my fork down, careful and calm. "Child, I hear you clear." No raised voice, no tremor. She rattled off utility numbers, HOA dues, pest control fees, adult words meant to sound responsible. "By month's end, then?" I asked. "Yes," she said quickly. "No hard feelings." Poor, I thought, is a word folks use when they don't know the whole story. I cleared my plate, slow and deliberate. Eden followed, whispering, "Grandma, you okay?" "I'm steady, baby," I said, rinsing dishes like prayer. Leora's tone softened. "We're just being responsible homeowners." Silas's wedding ring tapped the table. A small confession of guilt, but his lips stayed sealed. I chose silence. "You don't argue over dinner, you collect information." I wiped a coffee ring from the counter. Small act of order in a house that wasn't mine. My eyes slid to that envelope again. "We don't fight in kitchens." I thought, "We file things." Later, from the hallway, came laughter behind the closed door. Leora's voice, soft but sharp. Bless her heart. She really thinks casseroles count. A chuckle followed, low and male. "My son's—" I froze in the entryway, breathing steady. Bless your heart in Alabama can mean anything but kindness. I straightened a family photo on the wall, me slightly out of frame, and decided I'd never touch it again. Eden looked at me from the stairs, pretending not to hear. She texted later, "You staying tonight?" I didn't answer. I put on my coat without a sound. Silence has more weight than shouting ever could. Outside, the air was cold enough to bite. I sat in my car, hands resting on the wheel until my heartbeat slowed to a whisper. Streetlights haloed the pavement, and somewhere a cicada chirped out of season. I started listing steps in my head. Check mortgage file. Call the credit union. Confirm cosigner. Review escrow. The phone buzzed. A message from an old colleague at Jefferson Heritage Credit Union. Still at Crestwood? Need to ask you something about a legacy file? I smiled faintly. Timing. Lord, I murmured, turning the key. As I pulled away under the magnolia shadows, one thought rose above the rest. If they wanted adult money, I would show them where it truly lives. The morning light crept through my curtains, soft but certain, like truth after a long silence. I woke before sunrise, the house still heavy from last night's words. The air smelled of coffee grounds and cold rain, and I stood in my robe, whispering my plan out loud. Lockbox, bank, timeline. My voice steadied me. No speeches today, just paper and process. I knelt by the hall closet, pushing aside quilts folded decades ago, until my hand brushed the cold edge of the steel box I hadn't touched in years. The key was still taped under its base. Same place I left it after Silas's wedding, inside, documents layered like history. Mortgage note, tax records, deeds. I photographed each one with my phone, sticky notes labeling the evidence. Original note, deed of trust, cosign addendum. The sound of the shutter felt like heartbeat clicks. Before leaving, I scribbled a note on the fridge. Baby, school first, I'll call it lunch. I sipped my coffee, let it anchor me, then slipped on my navy coat. By 7:30, the table looked like a courtroom. I laid everything in chronological rows, 1985, 2015, 2021. Each page smelled faintly of dust and ink, memory and law. I traced my name where it still lived in blue pen, Odessa Marlowe, co-obliger, equal on the note. That one signature meant no one could alter this house without me. I highlighted the clause requiring my consent for future title changes. My pen underlined another detail. The escrow disclosure from 2 summers back when I quietly paid off a delinquent tax year to keep the roof stable. Folks forget, but paper remembers. I circled the right to rescind section, smiled faintly, thinking how few ever read it. 2 questions formed clear in my head for the bank. What's the current delinquency, and what triggers a servicing call? Clarity, not emotion, would carry me farther than anger. I slid the originals back into acid-free sleeves, tucked copies into my folder, and grabbed my keys. The Jefferson Heritage branch still smelled the same. Lemon polish, toner, and faint coffee. Mornin', sweetheart, I greeted the teller, her hair up in a neat bun. Could I have a private room to review co-obliger documents? My tone was steady, professional. In the small office, I showed my ID and paperwork, explaining, I'm not asking for access, just verification of standing. The branch manager joined us, kind but cautious. She scanned the documents, her brow lifting slightly at the co-obligor rider. This is rare, she murmured, printing a verification of interest letter for my records. So I'm still on the note? I asked. Yes, ma'am, she said. We'll confirm formally. I thanked her, then inquired about delinquency timelines. When thresholds trip, she said carefully. The system initiates outreach within 36 to 48 hours. I nodded. Good to know. Timing matters. In a quiet conference room, I asked for the transaction summary. Dates only. The paper trail showed my tax cure payment logged under third-party authorized. That small line confirmed everything. The manager leaned forward. Ma'am, because you cured the default before, the system might flag you again for early outreach. So, I said softly, the system remembers who saved the house. She didn't answer, just nodded. I signed the verification receipt, no emotion, no gloating. Inside, though, I felt the ground tilt back under my feet. If they want adult money, they'll meet adult paperwork first. At noon, my phone buzzed. Grandma, you mad? Eden asked. No, baby, I said. I'm organized. She giggled. Mom says you don't understand adult money. I smiled at the road ahead. Then this week, we'll show her what adult really means. I told her my 3 rules. Listen longer than they brag. Keep receipts. Move when the clock, not anger, says move. She laughed. You sound like TikTok. Maybe TikTok learned it from me, I said. Before heading home, I asked the manager for a written confirmation of expected contact. She couldn't name names, but her eyes told me enough. Stay by your phone, she said. I slipped her card into my planner, jotted notes on the back. Monday, 11:42 a.m. Verification printed. Walking out, I thought of something my late husband used to say. If it ain't written, it didn't happen. By sunset, my kitchen smelled of skillet cornbread. I spread out my papers again, creating a neat timeline. Lockbox, branch visit, next window of contact. I wrote a one-page statement, dates, amounts, clauses, to have ready. I pinned the verification letter under a little magnet shaped like a house. Then the phone rang once, no caller ID, and stopped. A text followed. We have important information regarding your mortgage. I stared at the screen. Steady as stone. 36 hours, I whispered. The porch light flicked off, leaving the room dim. My hand rested on the refrigerator magnet, cool metal under my fingertips. Bless their hearts, I murmured. The clock just started. The phone lit again, buzzing into the dark. I didn't answer. Not yet. The first voicemail came just after lunch, a calm, computerized voice that didn't care who heard it. Please contact us regarding your mortgage. Time sensitive. I didn't return the call. It wasn't mine to return. Instead, I wrote the timestamp in my planner, highlighted the number, and placed the phone face down on the counter. I reread my verification of interest letter, underlining the clause about contact protocol. Co-obliger may receive automated notices before the primary borrower. I smiled faintly. The system did what it was built to do. I texted Eden. School first. Grandma's fine. Remember the 3 rules. She sent a red heart and a cat emoji. I set my phone to ringer and vibration both. Clocks don't shout, they tick. The neighborhood air had that quiet before thunder stillness. When I stepped outside for a short walk, 2 neighbors were at the curb, murmuring about interest rates again. Heard they jumped half a point, one said. I nodded politely, not confirming anything. The HOA bulletin on the mailbox post flapped in the breeze, bold letters spelling late dues policy. I smiled at the irony. Across the street, Silas's truck appeared early, too early for his shift. He parked, head bowed, phone pressed to his ear, pacing. I didn't interrupt. Around here, courtesy means pretending not to notice a storm when it's forming over your own porch. Back inside, I laid the folder on the dining table, angled toward the door. Evidence should always be easy to find. Even when no one's asking yet, truth has weight. Set it where it can be found. Then came the second ripple. From my porch, I heard Leora's voice crack through their open windows like a snapped cord. 36 hours? That's ridiculous. I caught fragments. Escrow variance, prior cure, priority outreach. The language was financial, but the panic was human. I wrote each phrase in my notebook without judgment. I'd seen ya, miss, Silas muttered. We'll figure it out with him, but his tone said otherwise. A drawer slammed. I didn't move. Silence is a strategy, not surrender. For the record, I took a photo of my planner, time-stamped at 4:06 p.m. Paper trails are cleaner than revenge. No gloating. Just gravity. By dusk, Silas appeared at my car window. I'd been sorting receipts by lamplight. He looked smaller than I remembered, his shoulders drawn in. Mama, he started, voice uneven. Did you, do something with the mortgage? They said a prior cure changed the flag. I didn't flinch. I corrected taxes once, I said evenly. Paper remembers. He rubbed his wedding ring, that nervous tap I'd known since he was 12. Are you in trouble? He asked quietly. No, son, I said. I'm documented. He nodded, staring at the gravel between us. You should have told me. I smiled thinly. And you'd have listened? He exhaled, long and low, like a tire losing air. I offered the porch chair. He declined, eyes fixed on his front door. Compassion is not rescue. Not tonight, later. Through the thin glow of my living room lamp, I saw them again, Leora scrolling through her phone, Silas standing rigid. She froze mid-swipe, eyes wide. She's on it, she said. She's on the note. She can freeze exposure. Her voice cracked into panic. Silas didn't yell this time. Mama paid the delinquent taxes, he said slowly. That's why the system knows her. My phone buzzed again. Another text from the servicer. Same message, only now marked escalation. Pending contact. I jotted it down. Respect doesn't need a microphone. Paper will do. Back in my kitchen, I stirred red beans and rice, the slow rhythm calming my hands. Eden called softly from her room across the street. Grandma, is it bad? It's a weather change. Baby, I said. Take a sweater, not a sword. Before I could sit, the doorbell rang. Leora stood on my porch, tight smile, too much perfume. We need to talk adult to adult, she said. I opened only the storm door. Go on, then. You can't use whatever you did to embarrass us. I looked her straight in the eye. I used nothing. The bank used time. You used assumptions. Her mouth opened. No words came. I handed her a single page, typed, dated, outlined neatly. Read it, then decide how you want to speak to me. She skimmed the numbers, cheeks blotching red. I ended it there. 36 hours is mercy. Take it. She turned fast, stumbling on the porch step, clutching the paper like it might burn her. I locked the door behind her. Mercy needs a latch. At 9:37, the phone glowed again. Restricted mortgage servicing. Across the street, their lights snapped on. Two silhouettes pacing fast. I didn't pick up. I just wrote the time and underlined it twice. The second hand didn't chase them. It caught them. By sunrise, the street already knew more than it should. When I stepped out with my walking shoes and thermos, two neighbors paused mid-conversation, their smiles too polite to be natural. Morning, I said evenly. They nodded, then looked away like children caught whispering. I kept moving. The frost glittered on lawns, and rolled newspapers waited like small witnesses. Inside, on Eden's tablet, the HOA chat buzzed. Phrases jumped off the screen. Tax lien cured in 22. Someone else on the note. Priority outreach. I didn't reply. I simply screenshotted each message and filed them in a digital folder marked Receipts. Paper remembers, and these days, so do phones. My rule was clear. Never correct gossip. Just let truth travel on its own legs. At the Crestwood Bean Cafe, the barista set my mug down before I even spoke. You look like you already handled your business, she said. I smiled. Something like that. A retired teacher at the next table leaned closer. Heard you've been keeping that house straight longer than some folks been paying their own, I answered. I sign what I pay, ma'am. Then I left one of my verification of interest copies on the table, not waved around, just visible beside my napkin. People read what's left behind. I didn't need to raise my voice. Receipts do the talking. When I finished, I tipped 20% and wiped the table clean. Respect, like reputation, should leave no crumbs. Halfway home, the HOA vice chair jogged up. Miss Marlowe, he called. Anything we should know about dues? His tone tried for casual and failed. I said, dues are private, policies are public. Read your bylaws, Section 4. I have... His cheeks flushed. Right, of course. I nodded. Good neighbors assume less and read more. Then I wrote the time and initials in my planner. Out of habit, across the street. Leora's SUV sat askew in the driveway. Silas's truck gone. Sleep deprivation has a shape, and hers leaned sideways. At 10:10, a knock came. Mrs. Keller stood on my porch with her cardigan barely buttoned. Is it true you cured their taxes that summer the school nearly cut band? I handed her a photocopy of the escrow receipt, the amount blacked out but the date intact. She sighed. People ought to say thank you before they say grown up. I smiled. Gratitude and grown up can share a table. Across the street, blinds twitched. By noon, the chat thread had changed tone entirely. Someone wrote, "Let's mind our own." And just like that, the storm began to quiet. Right before lunch, Leora appeared at my door, casserole dish in hand, pretending peace offerings smell like butter. "Odessa," she said, "can we talk inside?" I gestured toward the kitchen counter, keeping the storm door open between us. "This is looking bad," she started. "People are judging." I poured coffee and replied, "Speak about money, or don't speak." Her lip trembled. "Could you call the bank? Maybe soften it?" I shook my head. "I don't touch clocks that aren't mine. Policy isn't punishment." I slid her a page, my same chronology from yesterday, this time with a sticky note. 36 hours means fairness, not threat. She looked down. "I misread you," she whispered. "No," I said quietly. "You misread the kind of work that doesn't need applause." Then I gave her 3 terms, clear as daylight. First, respect in this house, no more adult money talk. Second, Eden's schooling is not a budget weapon. Third, future changes to title or escrow require my written consent per writer. Her face paled. I nudged the casserole back to her side of the counter. "Feed your home. Mine's fed." She tried again, softer. "Would you help privately? Just this once?" I met her eyes. "Mercy isn't a secret deal. Bring me a plan, not panic." She left wordless, door clacking shut behind her. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. Voicemail from a new number, a clipped voice saying, "This concerns a pending servicing review and documentation you may have almost at once." Another ping, a screenshot from a neighbor. "Heard she begged in Odessa's kitchen." The caption beneath read, "Respect the woman who pays receipts." I set my pen on my planner and exhaled. By noon, the story had learned to tell itself. By mid-afternoon, the wind shifted, and so did the talk. A PTA mother sent me a wrong recipient email, the kind that isn't wrong at all. The thread said, "Is Mrs. Marlowe okay? She's elderly, maybe confused about the mortgage." I printed it, highlighted financial confusion and unstable boundaries, then slid it into my binder. "A man walking his dog mentioned? Heard you meddling in school funds?" I smiled, took note of the time, and wrote his name in my log. I texted Eden if anyone asks about money, say, "Grandma keeps records." Nothing else. People my age know rumors are like weeds. You don't shout at them, you file them. At the grocery store. As I loaded cornbread mix into the trunk, Leora's SUV pulled up beside me. She stepped out. Sunglasses on through the sky was cloudy. "Odessa," she began sweetly. "We all want peace." Her voice carried the weight of something practiced. "People are worried about your stamina." I kept the trunk open, letting passersby see we were just 2 women talking. "Concern," I said evenly. "Puts its name on paper." She twitched a smile. "Maybe just don't escalate?" I lifted my planner and answered, "I only lift pens." She left fast, phone already to her ear. Folks who can't win facts recruit whispers. I closed my trunk and drove home slow, letting the silence feel heavier than her words. By 5, a new email landed from a school counselor. "We've received concerns regarding Eden's financial stability at home." I answered with 2 sentences. "Eden's needs are documented and current. Further questions should be directed to her parents." Then I blind copied my attorney friend. Within minutes, the HOA vice chair sent a community harmony note, pretending it wasn't about me. I attached the bank's generic policy sheet and the relevant bylaws. No names. I recorded the correspondence aloud into my phone, my running audio log. When people go for your character, answer with structure, not shouting. Anger is gasoline. I prefer ink. At 6, the branch manager called from a private number. "Miss Marlowe, there's been an attempted HELOC request using your home as collateral. The system blocked it for lack of co-obliger consent." I sat down. "Did they submit my signature?" She hesitated. "There's a letter with your name, but the middle initial's wrong." My pulse didn't rise. "Send me the fraud alert intake and the activity report." I wrote each detail in my ledger. Time, name, reason. "They tried the side door," I murmured, "but the hinge remembered me." Half an hour later, a secure email arrived with the scanned consent letter. My signature looked thin, pressure uneven, date off by a day. I laid tracing paper over it, the way my father taught me when I was a notary. 2 loops didn't match. I drafted an affidavit, 1 page, precise. Non-consent, clause per rider, comparison attached. I sent it to the servicer's legal address. Sealed another copy labeled, "If anything happens to me, open. Quiet victories don't need drums." Just after 8, Silas texted, "Ma, maybe don't see Eden till this cools off." I called him. "Son," I said calmly, "children are never leverage. You can visit my porch, or I can visit yours." But her schedule stays steady, he sighed. "Leora's spinning." "Then let her spin." "We stand." I logged the call. Every word. Some people fight storms, others measure the wind. At 8:55, another ping, group text from Silas. "Family meeting tomorrow, 6 p.m. Non-negotiable." 1 minute later, my branch manager's email. "Servicer legal verification, 4:30 p.m. Bring ID and rider." I drew a thick line between the 2 times in my planner. They asked for a meeting. I brought a clock. By mid-afternoon, my kitchen counter looked like a war table, only quieter. I laid out my binder, driver's license, the co-obligor rider, escrow receipts from 22, affidavit draft, Joe A. bylaws, and the smear log that had grown thick with printouts. I texted Eden, "Homework first. I'll be home by 8. You're safe." Her little, "Got it, Grandma," came back with a heart emoji. I checked my list, called the branch manager to confirm the 4:30 verification, and jotted 3 questions on a sticky note. Triggers, notices, guarantor rights. I took 5 deep breaths over the sink and said softly, "Let my words be few and my paper complete, flats on my feet, spare pen in my pocket, and duplicates labeled for who gets what." Facts were my armor, stamps were my shield. At the servicer's office, the air smelled of toner and coffee. Glass doors whispered shut behind me. The rep greeted me by name, scanned my ID, and pulled up the file activity report. She pointed at the questionable consent letter. My middle initial was wrong, I stated on record. I did not authorize this document. I handed her the 1-page affidavit and my overlay tracing that proved it. She stapled a barcode on top and logged the escalation. "Accounts current," she said. "Not delinquent yet. Priority outreach ends at 5 tomorrow." I asked when public notice would trigger and how my rider intersected with escrow variances. She answered clearly. Printing each page with a timestamp, I thanked her. Tucking the stamped copy into my binder, paper logged, clock ticking, by 6 o'clock. I parked outside Silas and Leora's glowing house. Through the window, I saw them arranged like hosts on a talk show, 2 chairs opposite the couch. I moved a chair to the side, refusing their frame. Leora started smooth. "This is a conversation, not a prosecution." "Then stay with facts," I replied. Silas's fingers drummed his knee. I set my binder on the table, closed. Eden's schoolbooks on the sideboard steadied me. Children weren't bargaining chips. I tapped my phone, announcing, "Recording for my notes." No one objected. I opened the smear log. February 12th, financial confusion. February 13th, unstable boundaries. Same sender, same hour. Leora tried a sympathetic tone. "People just worry because you're older." I slid the stamped affidavit toward her. "This number proves who worried about what." 3 facts followed. I cured taxes in 22. The rider gives me consent rights. The attempted loan was blocked. Silas's eyes widened. "You filed today?" "I documented today," I said, "protecting what protects us." I laid the forged letter beside my driver's license, even from across the room. The mismatch was obvious. The air shifted, rumor wilted, then I opened the binder fully. The co-obligor rider, highlighted, the bank policy sheet on priority outreach. My voice stayed calm as I read dates, signatures, and amounts. 36 hours is mercy, I said evenly. "After that, policy moves without opinion?" Leora blurted. "The neighbors will think—" "They already read," I interrupted. Silas's drumming stopped. "What do you need from us?" he asked quietly. I handed him a sheet. Respect in speech, Eden off limits, and any title or escrow change in writing with my consent. Leora's face flushed. She signed first, pen biting the paper. Silas followed. Steady hand. "I'm sorry, Ma." I nodded once. Acknowledgement, not embrace. I took photos for record, then offered them a bank contact card and a budget worksheet. "Bring me a plan by morning." Love wasn't surrender. It was structure. I had just closed my binder when a hard knock shook the door. A courier handed Silas an envelope. Notice of intent to accelerate. Payment due by 5 p. M. Tomorrow. Leora's jaw dropped. Silas looked at the clock. I checked the timestamp. 7:41 p.m. The paper didn't panic. People did. By sunrise. The house was silent except for the low hum of my printer. I lined up every document like soldiers before battle. Bank wire options, cashier's check deadlines, and a fallback to liquidate my short-term CD. Sticky notes mapped the day by the minute. I called Mara Denton at the bank, confirming wire cutoffs and fee schedules, then asked for the wording of a proof of funds letter suitable for the servicer file. Next, I texted Claudia from the HOA and Ramon at my insurer. Need you both on standby at noon for risk mitigation if loan status flips. Both replied yes within minutes. Finally, I left a voice note for Pastor Harlan, asking him to sit nearby in case the family meeting tonight cracked open too wide. Just presence, not preaching, I said. Eden's ride home was arranged away from the storm, a grandmother's instinct. Protect the child, then face the noise. By 8, I moved to execution. I broke the CD early, accepting the penalty without flinching. The clerk asked if I was sure. I said, paper costs less than regret. The bank printed my proof of funds letter while I drafted a short memo, a formal forbearance request citing community impact and a pending job review for Leora. When Mara hesitated at the co-obliger clause, I reminded her, no modification without my wet signature. She nodded, impressed by my precision. I booked a 2:00 p. Cashier's check for pickup, noted the courier fee, and texted Silas. Cure plan in motion, bring pay stubs, not apologies. The mantra echoed in my head. I fund time, not excuses. At noon, my phone lit up with the 3-way call. Claudia's voice was crisp, policy sure. Temporary FOB revocation will apply to non-listed adults during delinquency risk, Ramon confirmed. Unauthorized key holders void occupancy coverage under Clause 7C. I asked for written logs, one from the HOA, one from the insurer. Within 20 minutes, both PDFs landed in my inbox. I forwarded them to Silas and Leora with a simple note. Keys are responsibility. Doors are liability. Pastor Harlan received a courtesy text. Stay close around 6. Porch if needed. On my counter, the revoked fob sat in a small evidence bag marked with the date and time. Control didn't roar, it documented. By afternoon, whispers had changed tone. The PTA thread cooled after misses. Atwell posted the generic account review underway message I'd shared. 2 neighbors texted uneasy apologies. I answered kindly but firm, keep us in prayer, not in thread. HOA logs showed several parking variance requests for tonight, signs of quiet spectatorship. I asked Claudia to deny them, citing neighborhood privacy. At the grocery store, a clerk leaned close. You all right, Miss Odessa? I smiled. Bills don't bite if you face them. My mind filed that as a truth worth sharing on my next video. Gossip loses oxygen when facts print in black ink. Mid-afternoon brought the corporate storm. Leora's employer sent an email marked compliance review. They'd pulled screenshots from the PTA thread and flagged it under reputational risk. HR demanded her statement by 5. Silas texted me. They think she lied. I didn't gloat. I archived the message under context, not weapon. My reply to him was short. Give HR dates, not feelings. To myself, I whispered. We don't trade payback for peace. We trade rumor for record. Still, I made note. Cause and consequence had finally met on the same line. Around 4, Silas arrived clutching pay stubs, with Leora trailing, pale, trembling, phone in hand. You made this a circus, she snapped. I gestured toward the open binder. Servicer notices, don't throw parades. They count days. I slid a budget worksheet forward, 3 highlighted lines. Mortgage, escrow, car. Circle 1 to cut. I said, Leora shot back, we can't touch the SUV. I met Silas's eyes. He exhaled. We'll sell it. I nodded once, marking the page. Adult decision confirmed. When Leora mentioned Eden, I stopped her. Children are not bargaining chips. Her silence was the first honest moment of the day. By 2. I collected the cashier's check and emailed the proof of funds packet to the servicer portal, receipt stamped and confirmed. Then I printed the family addendum, respectful speech, co-obligor consent on all finances, no interference with Eden's schooling, and a 6-month review clause. Pastor Harlan texted, "Park nearby if needed." I wrote back, "Keep the engine running." That evening, the kitchen lights felt softer. Silas signed the addendum first, his shoulders finally settling. Lyora hesitated, reading every line twice. She signed, pressing hard enough to emboss the paper. I gave them the paid today receipt and said, "Thank the paper. It's the only one that listens without arguing." Outside. Pastor Harlan nodded once through his window, a silent benediction. I placed the fob bag on the table. Access returns after 30 days of respect. The room exhaled. As I stepped to my car, another courier appeared, breathless, holding a fresh envelope, addressed to Lyora, Corporate Ethics Department, administrative leave pending. She froze, phone trembling, eyes searching mine for rescue. I met her gaze gently. "I can save a house with paper," I said, "not a reputation built on noise." Friday morning sunlight hit my dashboard as I pulled into the servicer lot. The air felt cleaner than it had in weeks, cold but calm. Inside, I slid the cashier's check, proof of funds letter and co-obligor rider across the counter. "Please stamp and confirm pause code," I said, polite but firm. The clerk tapped a few keys and handed me the receipt, seal shining in blue. I called Maura Denton on speaker, logging the transaction ID while scanning the stamped paper into my phone. Before I left the lot, the PDF was uploaded to the case portal. I texted Silas. House cured, clock reset, meeting at 6. Then I sat for a moment, palm still on the wheel, relief. I thought, isn't forgiveness. It's room to choose better next time. I took a photo of the receipt and slid it into the red folder marked Home. Paper first, feelings later. By afternoon, my dining table looked like a courtroom. 3 tabbed packets waited. Family addendum, 30-day budget, respect and access agreement. Every page bore my initials in blue. 2 chairs faced each other like opponents. A third at the head waited for me. Eden Ray was already off with her Aunt Marta for pizza night. No child would sit through another adult storm. The house smelled of lemon polish and resolve. On the card between us were the rules. No shouting, no phones, speak in first person. In the center sat the key fob evidence bag, beside the paid today stamp. I called Pastor Harlan. "I might need you to park nearby again," he said. Trucks fueled and waiting. To my viewers later. I'd tell them, don't start hard talks without an ally and an exit. At 3, the other shoe dropped. Lyora's phone buzzed with an email from her company's ethics department. Administrative leave pending. She turned pale, eyes darting to me. I didn't gloat. I've buried enough pride to know it rots fast. "I won't speak against you," I told her. "HR will work with facts, not my feelings." Then I slid a printed note across the table. "No mention of me, my church, or the HOA in your defense. Keep it factual." She nodded, wordless. My inbox pinged next. HOA and insurer confirmations, the fob suspension held. Coverage remained intact. Accountability, I thought, has its own gravity. It pulls noise into silence. At 6, I unfolded the real cards. From the red folder came the notarized Odessa Marlowe Living Trust, my house, fully transferred into trust under my name as trustee. Silas and Lyora, residential licensees, not owners. I laid a second document over it. Postnuptial financial conduct addendum. Each clause simple and sharp. Joint budget compliance. No loans without my wet signature. Public correction to the PTA thread. Written apology to Eden Ray. Monthly restitution to the trust, I said. Keys return when respect returns. Miss 2 terms. License revoked. Locks changed under HOA and insurer rules. Silas read, swallowed, then signed. Lyora trembled but pressed hard, the pen biting through carbon paper. Ultimatums cut both ways, I said quietly. Mine comes notarized. Before leaving, we drafted a public correction together. Lyora typed slowly while Silas dictated, "We misstated our situation. Mortgage responsibilities are shared by family. We regret the confusion." I proofed it. Humility, not humiliation, and let them hit post. Moments later, Pastor Harlan texted a single checkmark. I reached into the folder, removed the sealed fob bag, and set it before them. 30 days clean, I said, and it goes back on your ring. Leora's voice barely carried. What about me? I met her eyes. Earn quiet. That's your start. The air felt lighter. The paid today stamp went back into its sleeve. I pressed my hand flat on the red cover and closed it. After dark. Silas stopped by the porch with a trade-in receipt for the SUV and a printout of the first restitution draft. 9A, tomorrow, he said. I nodded. Provision is love with numbers attached. Leora whispered thanks. I accepted it without ceremony. The street hummed with ordinary sounds again, barking dogs, porch lights flicking on. I slipped the trust papers into my fire safe, poured tea, and watched steam rise. I didn't punish them. I protected the house I built. At dawn the next morning, the alarm chirped once. The sound of a home that would not be taken. That night. A soft knock echoed through my hallway. Too polite for trouble. Too late for comfort. On the porch lay a plain envelope marked, "For trustees' eyes only." My name. Typed perfectly. No return address. I hesitated, key in hand, wondering, had the house truly been cured or just awakened?